everyone, it's TheReallauraB here on YouTube and on Twitter. Wow, it's been a hot minute or months. It's been a long time. There hasn't been a lot going on with the court cases that involve the insurance companies and Amber Heard as it relates to the Depp v. Heard case, which is basically what I've been covering, and I was going to finish this to the end, and I thought it had finished. In January 1st, I had broken my wrist, which greatly damaged my hand. It's taken a long time to get back from that. And then there was no news. There was no updates. Then I got bronchitis, and the little bit of news we had, well, I just couldn't talk on a stream without choking up a lung, and I didn't think you'd all appreciate that. But things have been really quiet, and I actually thought it was over and done with. They were in settlement talks. The judge had dismissed New York Marine versus Amber Heard after she had lost her counterclaim, and she threw in the white flag. But New York Marine has come back. The judge said they could amend their claim, and they have amended their claim. And we're going to start with a quick catch up and that. So bear with me. Let's do our little intro, and I'll be with you.
Hi, I'm Laura, also known as TheReallauraB from Twitter, and now here on YouTube. I'm a researcher, new wave internet media, and commentator. I'm not a lawyer, nor offering any legal advice. Join me on a journey to review the world of celebrity lawsuits and current events. Let's get started.
Welcome back. Hey, everyone. Yeah, we're going to do a quick catch up on the insurances. A lot of it is mentioned in this new amended claim, so that will also catch you up. We'll do some question and answers, anything I can do to help you with the insurance. I have about an hour. My grandson is in the next room, supposedly napping. He hasn't quite gone to sleep yet, although once he does, he is a really good napper. But let's plan on an hour to an hour and a half, and we can try and get this done. Quick catch up. Basically, let's see. I'll share this tab. Travelers Insurance sued New York Marine July 2021, saying, hey, we've been covering all this cost of the burden of the defense fees, and you're supposed to cover this too, and you haven't paid your 50%. We've been covering it all, so you need to give us 50%. And somewhere in that, all these documents, and there's a gazillion of them, they said that, hey, we've put out $6 million to date. You've paid nothing. Well, that's not true, because New York Marine did have their own law firm that they hired. So going back, Amber Heard, Johnny Depp sued Amber. Let's look at the timeline. That might help. So Amber Heard Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard March 1st. It wasn't until September 4th that she filed for the insurance coverage. So what happened between there? Johnny sued her. She had Eric George, and I think it's Richard Swartz from California. She had to hire local counsel, which she did. She hired Cameron McAvoy. So that's who was representing her up until, well, she lost her dismissal. Eric George had filed to dismiss the claim completely, saying she didn't do anything wrong. This is the wrong venue. If anything, it should be in California. But either way, we should dismiss it. And the judge said, no. Eric George was gone. Robbie Kaplan came in. Now, I've seen a lot of people think she took this insurance out fraudulently to cover her for defamation. I honestly believe she didn't know she was covered for defamation, which isn't unusual. It's kind of buried in your insurance policy. Because why would she have waited until September 4th to file it? I think when they got rid of Eric George because they had lost the dismissal and brought in, Robbie Kaplan was interested. She was very much into the Me Too's, coverage, and she thought this would be a prime claim for her. And she said, well, how are you going to pay me? This is speculation. And Amber Heard and her counsel's like, I don't know. And they're like, well, check your insurance. And sure enough, she had two insurance policies, New York Marine and Travelers, that both covered defamation. Travelers was her homeowner's policy. New York Marine was her business policy for her loan out production company, of which her as the sole employee benefited. So now we've got two insurance companies that are going to pay 50% of her defense costs against defamation. So November 4th or October 1st, however, we have Robbie Kaplan and we still have Cameron McAvoy. New York Marine comes in and says, we will cover you. We will provide you a defense. We will appoint counsel because that's what our policy says. We do not give you independent counsel. We will appoint counsel. We will appoint Cameron McAvoy, who you've already hired. They seem like a great group. They're local. You have to have local. We're going to hire them. But we want them to be the lead attorneys. Meanwhile, Travelers hires Robbie Kaplan. I imagine Robbie Kaplan wouldn't be happy with them being the lead attorneys. So they bring in their own local counsel, and that's where Ben Rottenborn came in. So now we have two head-to-head counsels going. We have New York Marine funding Cameron McAvoy, who was there from the beginning. We have Travelers paying for Kaplan and Ben Rottenberg. And so we've got too many cooks in the kitchen, quite honestly. So it comes out much later, which we don't know, that Cameron McAvoy pulls out. They pull out on November 2nd, 2020. They withdraw. Travelers goes back to New York Marine and says, hey, your guys pulled out. So you have to pay 50% of our people, Kaplan and Ben Rottenberg. Well, actually, Kaplan had pulled out also. I should back up a little bit. Right before that, that would have been June 17th, Robbie Kaplan lost her demurrer to have the case dismissed entirely based on free speech. One of the things she was most known for in her documents saying that anybody with the slightest grasp of the English language would know this op-ed wasn't about Johnny Depp. Well, the judge says, yeah, no, we're not dismissing this. And Robbie Kaplan suddenly said, well, we're in lockdown. And even though, quote, parentheses, I should say, all the hearings are being done by Zooms. Well, it's too far for me to travel. And parentheses again, I am opening an office in Washington, D.C., which is only a few miles away, but, too far for me to travel, too expensive. So we've all agreed that I'm going to leave the case. And that's when Elaine Braderhoff came in. So now we've got Elaine Braderhoff and her firm, local counsel. Ben Rottenborn stayed on, local counsel. Cameron McAvoy is still there, local counsel. Well, that's when November 2nd, Cameron McAvoy finally says, look, we're out of here. We don't know why. There's nothing said publicly. I'm not even sure New York Marine knew why. And part of that is Amber Heard's counsel reports only to Amber Heard. The privilege still stays with her, not with her insurance companies. They still get status updates and all. But there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. So then now Travelers come back and says, you have to pay 50% of Elaine Braderhoff and Ben Rottenberg. New York Marine is like, well, okay, I see your point because we're supposed to supply a defense, but they're charging way too much. Just because this is a celebrity case, we will only pay 50% of the normal fees for this area, number one. And number two, we're going to max it out. $2 million, and you get us to the end of this case. Well, that didn't last long. That was blown away pretty quickly soon after that. But during discovery, then Travelers sued them. So Travelers sues them in July 2021. So Cameron left November. The following July, they sue her and say, hey, New York Marine, you haven't paid us. Well, New York Marine is starting to get wind that something ain't right. Travelers says your group left because they kept hanging on our coattails. They weren't doing any work. They were just here to ride it out on a celebrity case, but they were doing no work. We couldn't work with them because they never showed up. They never did this, that, or the other. So in the meantime, Cameron, when they left, finally came out in depositions like, yo, if something goes wrong here and Amber Heard decides to sue her counsel, that's not on us because they refuse to tell us about meetings. They refuse to tell us about their strategy. They're not running motions through us. In fact, this case was postponed. They didn't even tell us. We found out online. New York Marine's like, wait a minute, hold up, wait a minute. What do you mean they're not working with you? Assuming it meant Elaine Braderhoff and Ben Rottenberg. Well, now we get into discovery, and I think that's when they get to depose Cameron McAvoy, who says, yeah, they wouldn't work with us at all. They boot us out, and New York finds out Travelers has hired and paid for an independent counsel for Amber Heard to help them get rid of Cameron McAvoy. New York Marine is like, hold up. We supplied the defense of Cameron McAvoy. And if y'all won't work with him, then we don't owe anybody a defense. We've done our job. And that's when all the lawsuits came in and bolstered up. Travelers came back with their lawsuit saying you owed her independent counsel. The judge said, no, they don't. They didn't. They booted out Travelers' case entirely until they came back and said, well, they at least owe us 50% of the fees we put out because they owe a defense. So we have a trial. Amber Heard's found liable, intentional tort. She lied with malice, knowingly lied. New York Marine says, hold up, wait a minute. And they filed their complaint on July 8th, right after the order is filed. June 24th, they filed July 8th and go, yo, we do not owe this woman further defense. We do not owe her appeal. We do not owe her to pay for the judgment. We don't owe her anything because this was an intentional tort. Amber Heard countersued and said, hey, you owed me independent counsel. Now, Judge Wu is seeing over Travelers versus New York Marine. When New York Marine sued Amber Heard, they consolidated the cases, at least for pretrial. So Judge Wu already ruled that nobody was entitled to have to give her independent counsel. This has already been done. So I'm not sure why Amber Heard and her attorney thought, gee, maybe we can sneak this by the same judge. Judge Wu, again, New York Marine owed her independent counsel. I already ruled on this. I'm not going to change my mind. No, they don't. They do not owe her. They appointed Cameron McAvoy, who she was already hired anyway. So Amber Heard tried to sue on multiple grounds, and Judge Wu dismissed her. Said, you're out of here. I completely dismiss it. So for a further catch up, let's just jump to what their joint status report would be. So let's try that. Let's remove this. I'm going to share the screen in a second. But let me catch up with any questions so far, because I know I went through that pretty quickly. So she's not going to win. Let me say right up front on this. This is going to be settled. This is really all about who's paying who. This is never going to get to court. This is never going to get to a jury. But at least it is going to cost her some legal funds. Okay. But yeah, I doubt we'll see this going to any kind of jury. They're asking for the judge to declare who's right and wrong and who owes who what. Yes. Depp was not allowed to bring up that the insurance was paying. In an injury case, for example, when you have a car accident and you're trying to get damages for injuries from the person who hit you, if the jury finds out that your insurance is covering all this, they may try in their mind to subtract that. So generally speaking, the fact that someone, insurance, anyone is paying for your legal fees is not something the jury's supposed to consider. Now, if they open the door for it, which they very closely did when Amber Heard sat on that stand and said she couldn't donate because her husband sued her and she paid $6 million. I remember that sidebar. They came very close to getting it in. In fact, Elon was even saying, we're going to call Elon. I mean, Elaine was saying, we're going to call Elon. He'll say, you know, we'll ask him about the, if he paid any. But of course, she was bluffing. She had no intention of doing that, just like she had no intention of calling Stephen Duders. And she bluffed on that sidebar. So yeah, all sides knew the insurance was paying for this. They just couldn't get it to the jury. That would have been prejudicial in the damages. Thank you. I hope I didn't go too fast. I don't have, the documents aren't very long. So everybody's saying hi. I'm saying hi back. I don't see any other questions. I hope the insurance company can put task she getting away. She's getting away too much. I don't know. It's like she's just, there's more on that at the end. Remind me. But yeah, there is a concerted push, continue to push the UK narrative that Amber Heard is innocent, that Johnny Depp is bad, that Johnny Depp abused her, and that they're going to push to try and get the public to forget the trial ever happened. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? I don't think there's any more questions. So this is the most recent document before Amber Heard's counterclaim was fully dismissed. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. I can still fit that in. Okay, so there is a schedule that they're supposed to have a conference, a status conference, and they did that on May 11th. And again, they combined these. You see now they're all combined into one. Well, this says Travelers versus New York versus Travelers counterclaim, but Amber Heard's part is in this too. That was strange. On May 11th, the court granted a motion to disqualify Travelers counsel. Travelers had hired counsel that somebody who was already working on this very case for New York Marine. And they're like, yo, that's a conflict of interest. And the judge agreed. He was booted. So Travelers was going to have to retain new counsel on May 25th. The court granted Travelers' request for approval of substitution counsel. Since then, Travelers and New York Marine have agreed to mediate their dispute on August 21st with this person, usually they're retired judges, as stated in the pending motion for judgment on the pleadings. Ms. Heard contends that there are no further issues to be resolved between Ms. Heard and New York Marine, and the case should be dismissed. However, Ms. Heard does not oppose the proposed pretrial timeline. So in California, it is required that they attempt some kind of mediation or arbitration. So Travelers and New York Marine are in settlement talks as of August 21st, or mediation. For its part, New York Marine agrees to the proposed schedule as set forth below. However, New York Marine disagrees that there is no further issues to be resolved between itself and Ms. Heard. Additionally, on March 28th, New York Marine propounded special interrogatories and requests for production on Ms. Heard in the New York Marine v. Amber Heard action, responses to which were due April 27th. On April 24th, Heard requested a 45-day extension of time to June 8th, in which to respond to New York Marine discovery requests. On April 25th, New York Marine granted the requested extension. On June 8th, Heard served responses to New York Marine's special interrogatories and requests for production solely with objections on the grounds that there's no remaining issues. It's been a long time since I've talked this much. Sorry, guys. Let me catch up here. So, they've asked her for interrogatories. What that is we're giving you a list of questions. You have to answer us under oath in writing. We're also asking for requested productions. Those are documents, texts, emails, anything like that. And you have to respond to them. And they've delayed, and their final answer, which they probably copied and pasted as we've seen this before, there are no remaining issues in this dispute between the parties, so they're not providing anything. So, because New York Marine's claims against Heard remain live, New York Marine anticipates that it will be filing a motion to compel if its meet and confer efforts do not result in Heard agreeing to promptly provide substantive responses to the interrogatories and requests for productions. Oh, guys. Okay, so this was the last schedule. Basically, they have to have their private mediation finished by August 31st. So I assume New York and Travelers are still in that, which is also why the New York Marine has filed this amended claim. So the judge did hear New York Marine and Amber Heard argue out what's left of New York Marine's claim. And the judge says, look, I've dismissed Amber Heard's claim. I need this here for a minute. Yeah, I've dismissed Amber Heard's claim. She's agreed to not hold you for indemnification. She's agreed not to file an amended claim. So, New York Marine, you won. There's nothing left. I can't give you anything because there's nothing left. You don't have to pay the judgment. You don't have to pay for the appeal. There's no ongoing defense costs because the case is over with. The appeal was withdrawn. The judgment, some kind of settlement was created and paid for. You're out of it. I got nothing more I can give you. So as a result, the judge dismissed the case on the basis of mootness. It is moot. There's no longer controversy. And as a result, he wiped out this entire schedule. That schedule is now gone. So the judge says, but New York Marine, I'm going to let you amend your claim if you want, but you got to get back to me in 14 days. And that's what they've done. We have the amended claim. So very quickly, do I have any questions I need to? I'm doing good. I don't know what's going on. We had crazy weather. Yeah. New York Marine will never admit, I make sure I got the kitty sleeping. They will never admit. No. I think that's pretty much ended there. No need for papers. Take your animals into Australia, guys. Right. So that we'll touch on that at the end. Perjury is very hard to go through the court, to get it through the court, because the court is going to say, what is the benefit of us hearing a perjury case? Will it change the outcome? Well, no, she had already admitted she lied. Will it change any damage we may have charged her? Maybe. Will those damages offset how much it will cost us to do this trial, to expedite or anything? And I think they just felt that the cost outweighed the fact that she had admitted she lied, although on a much minor level. So it's a shame they can't use it in. I will check with my Australia tomorrow and put on an update in the comments of this video when I get the answer. Yeah, see if you can find out exactly why, but I think it's going to be the cost outweighed the benefits to the Australian people. Correct. So Depp agreed to withdraw his appeal. Amber Heard agreed to withdraw her appeal. And the negotiation included that Amber Heard would only pay $1 million because that's what her insurance would pay. Johnny Depp never intended to bankrupt a single parent, a single mother. That would just look bad on him. His own goal was always to clear his name. It wasn't about money. But in order to file a claim, you have to show damages. So he had to list damages. And they said in the closing, I thought the jury was going to come back with $1. Yeah, I'm very confused about Musk's involvement. I had a conversation with Tug the other day, and he was saying, she left Twitter when Musk took over, right? When Elon took over, she left Twitter. If she had Elon in her back pocket, why didn't she stay on Twitter, and why didn't Elon get us all canceled off Twitter? That's what I would have expected. So I don't know what to, that's a whole cobweb to get into, tangled web. What about the monies paid for Cameron? Yeah, I'll look at that timeline. There's a part in here where I'm going to jump back to the timeline, and we'll start looking at who got paid and how. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, the original Cameron, the original cost, Amber Heard paid out of pocket up until September 4th. That included Eric George, Richard Schwartz, I think, and Cameron McAvoy. From the time New York Marine accepted the claim, they paid for Cameron McAvoy. Travelers accepted the claim, they paid for Robbie Kaplan, Ben Rottenborn. Robbie Kaplan left. They paid for Elaine Bradehoft and Ben Rottenborn. Then Cameron left. And then it was just Elaine and Ben left. And that's when Travelers said you should pay 50% of their costs. Okay. So you got that? All right. So let's get to the Second Amended Claim. And I'll get this as big as I can for you. It's not too long. 16 pages, but it's actually about 12 pages because a lot of it is, you don't even have to read. It's, to make that a little too big. Jurisdiction. Well, we know it's a jurisdiction because the claim was already accepted in the jurisdiction because the amount of controversy exceeds $75,000. Let me look here. Okay. Okay. Just looking real quick. So they already know the jurisdiction because it was already started here. This is not going to be in question. Originally, Amber Heard said, you don't have jurisdiction over me because I'm stateless. I don't have a resident. I don't live in the States. I don't have a known, residency in the States. But that fell apart because she did have a house when they had originally filed, and she did have residency. So she gave that one up. So the jurisdiction is set to go. Stays in this court because the controversy exceeds the sum of $75,000. So very quickly, they are looking for the judge to make a declaration who's right, who's wrong, who pays what. In order to get into this court, you have to have at least $75,000, and there has to be controversy. So they're going to describe what the controversies are. I know that sounds very strange. Trying to keep up with questions at the same time. Okay. In this action, New York Marine seeks a judicial determination of the respective rights of the parties under an insurance policy to Under the Black Sky, which included defendant Amber Heard as a named insured with respect to Amber Heard's defense in an underlying lawsuit, John C. Depp versus Amber Heard in Fairfax County, Virginia. Plaintiff's claims for declaratory relief are authorized by USC 28. Venue is proper, we know that. Because Heard resided in Central District of California at the time of the commencement of this action, and because a substantial part of the events giving rise to this action occurred in this judicial district, consisting of the issuance of the insurance policy to Under the Black Sky with a relevant mailing address in Central District. Plaintiff New York Marine is a corporation organized under the laws of the state of New York. So we have an outside of the state resident, New York, suing a resident inside California. So that's why they go to this special court, federal court. Has to have a $75,000 threshold, and there has to be controversy for the judge to issue a declaration, because New York Marine is not a resident of California. Heard is at all times herein mentioned as the individual who at the time of the commencement of the action was a citizen and resident of California. Insurance policy. New York Marine issued insurance policy. Now, this has been amended from their first one. Some of this old stuff is coming in, and some of the new stuff is now coming in. New York Marine issued policy number whatever to insureds Under Black Sky with Amber Heard for the policy period July 18th, 2018 to July 18th, 2019, with a per occurrence limit, a liability of $1 million. That would have been the judgment, not the cost of the legal defense. But if she was found liable, but not with actual malice, we would pay a judgment up to $1 million. A true and correct copy of the policy is attached. The policy includes a comprehensive personal liability coverage form, which provides coverage for damages because of bodily injury, property damage, or personal injury caused by an occurrence to which the coverage applies. The comprehensive personal liability coverage form of the policy defines the term occurrence to mean an accident, including continuous or repeated exposure to conditions which results during the policy period in a bodily injury or a property damage or a personal injury. Defamation is a personal injury. Thank you, Laura B. I so appreciate it. I really do. I did have to pay for these documents, so I appreciate all the help there. The comprehensive personal liability coverage form of the policy defines the term personal injury to mean injury other than bodily injury arising out of one or more enumerated offenses, including oral or written publication of material that slanders or libels a person or organization, including other forms of defamation, or publication of material, including other forms of defamation that violates a person's right of privacy. The comprehensive personal liability coverage from the New York Marine policy provides with respect to as relevant personal injury caused by an occurrence to which the insurance applies, that New York Marine will provide a defense at our expense by counsel of our choice, even if the suit is groundless, false, or fraudulent. So that's the difference from the $1 million coverage. We will provide the full legal defense. The comprehensive policy liability coverage form of the New York Marine policy provides under conditions duties after loss that Heard must help New York Marine by seeing that enumerated duties are performed, including helping New York Marine with the conduct of suits and attend hearings and trials. The conditions section of the comprehensive personal liability coverage form of New York Marine policy provides that the insured, Amber Heard, will not accept at the insured's own cost, Amber Heard's own cost, to voluntarily make any payment, assume any obligation, or incur any expense other than for first aid to others at the time of the bodily injury. So she's claiming she incurred all these extra expense, out-of-pocket expenses that they should pay for. And they're like, You can't spend money that you don't have, and you can't ask us for money without permission of how you're spending it. Under the suit against us, provisions of the conditions section of the comprehensive personal liability coverage form of the New York Marine policy, it provides that no action shall be brought against us unless there has been compliance with the policy provisions. And Amber Heard did countersue them. Policy, I know this part is dry, but this is a little bit different than what was going on before. The policy also includes a commercial general liability coverage form, which includes coverage B, personal and advertising injury liability, providing coverage for sums that the insured become legally obligated to pay as damages because of personal and advertising injury, to which this insurance applies. Commercial general liability coverage form further provides that we will have the right and duty to defend the insured against any suit seeking those damages. Thank you, Diana. I so appreciate it. I know this part's a little dry. Insurance coverage is dry, but this is kind of important. The exclusion section of the commercial general liability coverage form provides that the coverage does not apply to personal and advertising injury arising out of oral or written publication of material if done by or at the direction of the insured with knowledge of its falsity. And that's what the jury found. So they're saying, whoopsie, we don't have to cover you. It's under our exclusion. You lied. The jury found you lied. The jury found you lied with actual malice, meaning you knew it was false at the time you wrote it. Furthermore, the commercial general liability coverage form is subject to an exclusion endorsement entitled Exclusion Designated Activities, which provides that the insurance does not apply to personal and advertising injury arising out of activities described in the schedule of this endorsement, regardless of whether such activities are conducted by you or on your behalf, or whether the activities are conducted by you or for others. The schedule under description of designated activities excludes special events, promotion, live performance, motion picture and or video production, unless declared and approved by underwriter prior to exposure commencement. So they're trying to make sure they've got all this in here for the judge up front. In addition, the commercial general liability coverage form is subject to an exclusion endorsement entitled Exclusion Personal and Advertising Injury Liability Entertainment Industry, which provides that this policy does not apply to personal and advertising injury arising out of the development, creation, pre-production, production, post-production, distribution, exploitation, writing, broadcasting, airing, performing, or exhibition of films, television, cable programs, radio programs, stage plays, video cassettes, music, sheet music, computer programs, books, or other similar materials, and property, or to any advertising or broadcasting activities. I'll be interested how that plays in here. Yeah. I think this might play back to something Travelers recently filed. The commercial general liability coverage form provides under Section 4, Commercial General Liability Conditions, Paragraph 2, duties in the event of occurrence, offense, claim, or suit. You and any other insured must cooperate with us in the investigation or settlement of the claim or defense against the suit, and further provides under subparagraph D that no insured will accept at that insured's own cost, voluntarily make a payment, assume any obligation, or incur any expense other than for first aid without our consent. The commercial general liability form provides under Section 4, legal action against us, that no person or organization has a right under this coverage to sue us on this coverage unless all the terms have been fully complied with. And they're going to say there's a lot that hasn't been complied with. So before we get into the underlying suit of this case, this isn't the Debbie Heard, but this case, let me see if I've got any other questions here. I already saw Diane. It's nice to see you all. Thank you so much. If you want to contribute to the links, I usually have the PayPal in my community tab or my About Me tab, but also there's the super chats here. What else have I got? I don't see any questions. Oh, happy birthday to somebody I just saw. Happy birthday, midnight. It's coming close. Well, we missed it. It was past. Well, she's going to have to answer this in 14 days. So that'll be the answer to this story. As far as everything else, I don't know. Don't see any other questions. Should we spend other people's money? Isn't that the truth? Seems so. I don't know where she gets her money from. I honestly don't. I mean, if it's true that Una is Elon's daughter, then I can only assume that he's paying some kind of support. I don't know. I think she's got a lot of power and support from women's groups. I just don't know. True. And her mother told Jennifer Howell that there was embryos between the two of them that were frozen that they were fighting over. I mean, like, where did that come from out of the blue? Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. Well, she made some mistakes, that's for sure. But she didn't buy these insurance policies to defraud them. She didn't know she had the coverage, I believe. But it didn't end there. Mm-hmm. Oh, can you hear it? Twinkle, twinkle? I'm so sorry. I'll turn the volume down. I didn't realize you guys could hear that. Oh, you know, I have a lot. I have all the documents. I have a ton of documents at TMG and Bloom, but I feel like you get to a point that Johnny Depp is a real person and he didn't want this public, and it is public, and it's been forgotten, and maybe it should be forgotten because this is very personal and very hurtful. And they did settle, and it seems that Bloom retired, went out of business, and Johnny was very happy. So, well, I've done the best I can at the intro, so I hope that helped. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Yeah. Once Acumen is done with, I'm hoping interest in her will disappear. There is a concerted effort, I believe, to continue to push the narrative that she is the victim, he is the bad guy, she represents all women, and she needs to work. And there's rumors about Farrow doing a book or a documentary. I am not surprised. I don't know what will go in it. I mean, maybe she'll start with this, I've been Me Too'd my whole life. I don't know. I don't know what she's going to do, but there is a concerted effort, and I think I can only guess it's by women's groups. There's some kind of power that will not accept that a woman was lying, and they're going to have to turn it around in the public. Okay, so I didn't see any. Yeah, again, that's what Jennifer Howell said that Amber Heard's mother said. Interesting. The underlying action was filed March 1st. In the action, Depp sought damages. This is Depp v. Heard. Sought damages for defamation based on an op-ed allegedly written by Heard and published in both the online edition and the Washington Post on December 18, 2018. And in print edition, December 19th, which was republished by Heard in a tweet. This is how she was found liable for the headline, because she republished the tweet. A true and correct copy is attached. On or about September 4th, Heard tendered the underlying action to New York Marine. That was September 4th. Remember, this was December. Oh, Johnny filed March 1st. So it wasn't until September that she filed the claim. On October 1st, New York Marine accepted Heard's defense of the underlying action subject to reservation of rights. In doing so, New York Marine advised Heard that it would provide a legal defense, but that to the extent California law does not permit an insurer to indemnify the insured, no indemnity can be provided. In other words, if you're found liable, and proof with actual malice that you lied, you're not indemnifying you. If you lied, we ain't paying for the judgment. At the time, Heard tendered the underlying action to New York Marine. The law firm Cameron McAvoy was already defending her in that action. When New York Marine accepted Heard's defense, it appointed the same law firm, Cameron McAvoy, to defend Heard, and so advised her. New York Marine is informed and believes, based on Heard's first amended and supplemental answer and counterclaims filed earlier, that Heard rejected New York Marine's defense. However, Heard never notified New York Marine that she was rejecting its proffered defense, while the underlying actions were pending. And that's what they found out through discovery and Travelers. And then Amber Heard filed in her counterclaim, I I could not fully accept the defense you provided me because I insisted on an independent defense. And New York Marine is like, yo, if you didn't accept our defense, by the way, Cameron McAvoy, that you already hired, if you didn't accept our defense, then that voids our contract to you. We don't owe you anything, is what New York Marine's claiming, which is what they also claiming to Travelers. New York Marine is further informed and believes, and on such information and belief alleges, that Amber Heard and her agents, including her other counsel from the other firms, defending her in the underlying action, acting with her full authority, elected and agreed to not allow Cameron McAvoy to substantially participate in Heard's ongoing defense, and otherwise obstructed the efforts of Cameron McAvoy to substantially participate in her defense. Remember, the boring stuff I read at the top, she was supposed to help her lawyer. She was supposed to help Cameron. She was supposed to assist in her defense, not block them. As a result, Cameron McAvoy's inability to fully participate in the defense due to the acts and omissions of Heard and her other counsel, it withdrew from the defense of Heard and the underlying action on or around November 2nd. The underlying action proceeded to trial beginning April 11th. The jury awarded Depp $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages from Heard. However, the punitive damages were reduced to a statutory cap of $350,000 pursuant to Virginia Code. So what have I got here? Have you considered covering the sidebars? They reveal so much about Elaine's shenanigans. I agree. When they first came out, I still had the bronchitis, and a lot of other people have started covering them. Elaine has covered them. I think her name is, it's not Lindsay, Australian gal. She changed the name of her, maybe you guys can pop it up. She changed the name of her YouTube account, and I lost track of her. Leslie, maybe her name is. She did something with something raw. They've all changed their, I don't know whether they lost their accounts and came back, but things changed and I lost them. But she's doing all the sidebars, which are really interesting. She's reading them in short videos. Emily D. Baker covered some of the most popular ones, most controversial ones. But yeah, I could do that. It's just a lot of reading. And yeah, Elaine was trying to push through what she knew was not the law. And, you know, was getting a lot of stuff not allowed. And thank you again for $20. It is so appreciated. I really appreciate it, Loretta. Thank you. The whole Wooten thing is crazy. I'm dying to see how that plays out. Again, in the Netherlands, I saw a few articles about her being the victim and JD the abuser just last week. Just last week. These documentaries are coming out intended to skew everybody. Supposedly, she has outright purchased this house and renovated for $2 million and renovated it from top to bottom. I don't know what to believe. I honestly don't. Is she still with Bianca in Spain? I don't know. What I can tell you is that she was seen in, was it Belfast? She was seen. And my indication to that is, you know, Johnny owns a property in France, and he knows that he can only be there 6 months of the year, or he's going to have to pay resident income tax for France. And the same thing applies to her. And I know she can get an extended visa. Everybody talks about this golden parachute visa or something. But if she's there more than 6 months, she's going to have to pay income to Spain. She's going to have to still pay federal income to the U.S. So she's going to be taxed up the wazoo. And all the celebrities know this, and Johnny knows that's why he doesn't stay in France full time. He bounces country to country to avoid, and he keeps track of that because he also doesn't have to pay California resident state tax for the time he's not in the state. So he has to keep very meticulous records of that. We went through this because we lived overseas for many years for company work. So my guess right now, I don't know where she is, but I'm guessing she's not in Spain for the rest of the year because of tax reasons. But I don't know that. I don't know that. People say, well, what income? She gets residuals. You know, she earned a lot. She wants us to forget about that. But she was in quite a few movies and shows and speaking fees. So I don't think Bianca was staying with her full time. But it's none of my business. I mean, I don't really care about them. Ian's starting to tell all Elon business. Maybe Maybe that's what her book is going to be about, what it was like to be with Elon. I don't know what she's going to talk about. Maybe she's going to talk about her experience in Hollywood from the casting couches before Johnny. I can't even. You're 30 minutes away from her and you do not welcome her. I don't blame you. Tug mentioned something about Amber getting her citizenship in Spain and surrendering hers in the States. That way she only needs to pay Spain taxes. Maybe. I don't know. Yes, like Shakira. They will track you down. They will track you down for their money. Just like Shakira. Thank you, Julia. I so appreciate it. All right, we're midway on this. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad I could get back. Still a little rusty. But once I get to free flow and talk with y'all, it's a lot easier. Elaine was bad. I guess so, but I tell you, she wasn't. You see her fighting like a dog at those sidebars. She was not giving up for her client at all. I believe she is in need of work. But I think they're going to try and turn things around and keep making Johnny the bad guy and limit his work and try and get people to forget trial ever happened. First cause of action, jumping back into the document. Now, this is now the first cause of action of New York Marine versus Amber Heard. And this was dismissed by court's dismissal August 14th, but I think they're hoping the judge will reconsider. California Insurance Code provides that an insurer is not liable for a loss caused by a willful act of the insured, but he is not exonerated by the negligence of the insured or the insured's agents or others. Negligence is an accident. Willful act is falsity. Negligence is leaving something out in the driveway that someone trips over. This provision is an implied exclusionary clause, which by statute is read into all insurance policies. The jury's factual findings establish that Heard's liability is caused by the willful acts of Heard. As a result, as a matter of California public policy and pursuant to California Insurance Code, the policy does not provide coverage for Heard's liability as reflected in the judgment order entered on June 24th. An actual controversy. Remember, this is required. Sorry about this, guys. I'm not used to talking so much. The actual controversy has arisen and now exists between plaintiff on one hand and Heard on the other, with regard to the duties and obligations owed between plaintiff and Heard under the policy with respect to the judgment order. Plaintiff contends that it has no duty to indemnify Heard for the judgment order entered on June 24th. Plaintiff is informed and believes, and on such information and belief alleges, that Heard disputes plaintiff's contention and asserts this. They're thinking, even though Amber Heard has lost her dismissal, her counterclaim, and it was dismissed, they're still pushing the idea that plaintiff is informed and believes, and on such information and belief alleges, that Heard disputes plaintiff's contention and asserts that the policy provides indemnity coverage for Heard for the judgment order entered on June 24th. Now, when Heard countersued New York Marine, they did not make a claim against indemnity. When her claim was dismissed, she said, okay, I'm not going to file an amended claim. I'm not going to pursue a claim against indemnity. So she kind of floated it out there, and the judge says, look, New York Marine, I can't let you go forward because it's something she might do in the future. Like she might appeal the dismissal of her counterclaim. She might file against you for indemnity. She might do something in the future. I can't rule on the future. I can only rule for what's happening right now. So it's possible in their settlement talks with Travelers is still pushing the fact that Amber Heard wants them to pay $500,000 toward the $1 million judgment. Let's see. Due to the actual and present controversy described above, pursuant to 28 U.S.C., plaintiff requests a judicial declaration of the rights, duties, and obligations under the policy, determining that if said judgment order entered on June 24th becomes final on appeal or otherwise, which it has, plaintiff has no obligation to indemnify Heard for this judgment order. So they did bring indemnity up. in their original claim. And they want the judge to take a step on that and say, I don't care if Amber Heard is saying now she's not going to pursue to indemnify her. We want you to say she has no right to do that. Quickly looking at questions. So a lot of you are talking moving to Spain. I don't know. Yeah, Ben Chu made it very clear that if she tries to bring any of this up in a book, she's going to probably talk about what her experience was around the trial, but she can't make any further claims of abuse. I guess she can say she didn't feel like she got a fair trial. I don't know. 90 days and not be a resident. I thought it was 100 days. I thought it was 180 days. Amby Pants. The woman who came up with that I saw came up with the nickname Amby Pants is the one who's doing all the sidebars. I remember her calling her Amby Pants. That's how I remember. But maybe you all help me out if you remember who it is. I think it's Leslie now. There is a long-term visa in Spain, but if you're there after so many days, you still have to pay the insurance. If you invest $2 million into Spain economy, they allow a long-term visa or something. I get you get the long-term visa, but being allowed to stay in Spain is not the same as being excluded from tax. And it's the tax thing that I'm talking about. Tug tied it all together and it made sense. Okay. The golden visa, you only have to invest. I understand the investment. I understand the residency, but you still have to do the tax. So I don't think any Americans want to pay tax unless they give up their citizenship. And that is huge for us. Johnny Depp has always said he wasn't going to give up. That was never an issue about him giving up his citizenship. So it's a big step. Big step for any of y'all. Sob story about social media incoming. Sure. What could be a plan on that? We're all going to be center stage for that. Second cause of action. And again, this was dismissed, but they're bringing it back in, hoping the judge will reconsider it. California Insurance Code 533 provides that an insurer is not liable for a loss caused by a willful act of the insured, but he is not exonerated from negligence of the insured or the insured's agents or others. This provision is an implied exclusionary clause by statutes read into all policies as a matter of California public policy. We already know that. Does not provide coverage for Heard's liability to debt. A national controversy has arisen and now exists between plaintiff on the one hand and Heard on the other with regard to duties and obligations owed between plaintiff and Heard under the policy with respect to indemnity for the underlying action. Plaintiff contends that it has no duty to indemnify Heard for the underlying action. Plaintiff is informed and believes, and on such information and belief alleges that Heard disputes plaintiff's contention. Well, she says she asserts it, that she's not going to proceed for it, but that's not to say she won't in the future. Informed and believes that on such information and belief alleges that Heard disputes plaintiff's contention and asserts that the policy provides indemnity coverage for her for any liability which may be established in the underlying action. That's like setting your house on fire so you can get the insurance claim. If they find out that you did it, you don't get the insurance. You're not indemnified. Yeah, they cover fire. They don't cover intentional fire by you. Due to the actual and present controversy described above, plaintiff requests a judicial declaration of rights, duties, and obligations under the policy, determining that plaintiff has no obligation to indemnify her. Third cause of action. Now, here's the new one that they're bringing in. Declaratory relief, as to plaintiff's duty to defend Heard in the underlying action, the policy. An actual controversy has arisen and now exists between New York Marine on one hand and Heard on the other with regard to the duties and obligations owed by New York Marine to Heard under the policy with respect to whether New York Marine ever had an obligation to defend Heard in the underlying action. New York Marine contends, based on California Insurance Code, that it had no obligation to pay any defense costs or to defend Heard either, one, at any time following the commencement of the underlying action on March 1st, up until Heard's tender of the action to New York Marine on September 4th. Can I highlight this? Yeah. What they're saying is, remember, Amber Heard is somehow insinuating that she was out of pocket for so much money that they should reimburse her for. They're saying we owe her no defense cost from March 1st until September 4th when she tendered us. Whatever she spent out of her pocket before then isn't on us. At any time between September 4th, when she tendered her request to defense, and October 4th, when Marine advised it would defend her, they owe her no legal costs. So from September 4th to October 1st, just about a month, you can't claim it. So if you have any costs out of your pocket during that time, that's not on us. Then on October 1st, they said they would defend her under reservation of rights through Cameron McAvoy firm and at any time thereafter. New York Marine further contends that Heard had no reasonable expectation of a defense under their comprehensive personal liability coverage because the underlying action did not allege an accident within the meaning of the definition of the term occurrence, nor did Heard have a reasonable expectation of a defense under the commercial general liability coverage form because of 1, the exclusion for personal advertising injury arising out of oral or written publication of material if done by or at direction of the insured with knowledge of all its falsity. They're saying at the time she tendered her claim, she knew that she had made false statements. So retroactively, we shouldn't even have to pay for anything anytime after. We had no reasonable expectation of a defense under this because she knew she was lying. The exclusion, designated activities, endorsement precluding coverage inter alia promotion, and the exclusion, personal and advertising injury liability, entertainment industry. I know this is a pain. I know this is dry insurance stuff, but we read about the exclusion for all of performance and books and all that. Plaintiff is informed and believes on such information and belief alleges that Heard disputes plaintiff's contentions and asserts that the policy obligated New York Marine to defend her in the underlying action, that she had a reasonable expectation of defense from New York Marine in that action, and that she has incurred fees and expenses of over $4 million, which she alleges have not been paid by any insurer, which she requests to recover from New York Marine. Now we're up to $4 million. In a prior claim, in her counterclaim and answers, she said she was out of pocket hundreds of thousands. Now she's claiming she's out of pocket $4 million. $4 million. I'm wondering what that is. And I'm wondering if this is coming through settlement talks with Travelers, why this is now suddenly coming in. That what happened here that she was out of pocket $4 million. I don't know. So let's look at this. All right. And I have to look on here with you because I don't have it. Do I have it here? I have it here. All right. So looking at this with you, from March 1st through October 1st, she's out of pocket. She's out of pocket. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 7 months she paid out of pocket. She's claiming she's $4 million out of pocket. So that's 7 months she's out of pocket where they're saying, we're not paying for any of this. I mean, you hadn't even filed a claim yet, so we're not responsible. So you can't count those 7 months. During those 7 months, she had 2 law firms, California law firm, local firm. They filed to have it dismissed. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for 7 months. Then they did pay for Cameron McAvoy. Once Cameron McAvoy left, it all fell to Travelers. So from November 2020 to April 11th, should we say the start of the trial? How many months is that? Right? 18 months, 4, 5, 16 months, 18 months. Up to the start of the trial, New York Marine was not paying Travelers 50% after Cameron left. So is she trying to say that they're saying that no other insurance company paid for her pocket? So is Travelers trying to say that's back on your books now? We're not paying it. That's back on your books. I don't know where they're coming up with $4 million. And then once the judgment went in, it doesn't make sense. Once the judgment went in, she was found liable, so they were relieved. New York Marine's 50% allegedly in this claim from November 2nd when Cameron left until 6/1, let's say that's when the judgment, appears to be $4 million, conjecture, 18 months worth. But we know Travelers paid it, so is Travelers trying to say it's back on your books? Travelers wants New York Marine to pay 50% from November 2nd through 6/11 and ongoing the appeal and 50% of the judgment, plus 10% California interest. So that much we know is happening. So now she's claiming somehow $4 million, which she has alleged has not been paid by any insurer. So this is a shocking number. This is the first we're seeing this. Let me finish this section and then I'll come back to your questions. Due to the actual and present controversy described above, pursuant to 28 U.S.C., plaintiff requests a judicial declaration of the rights, duties, and obligations under the policy, determining that with respect to defense of Heard, plaintiff never had an obligation to defend her in this underlying action, either one, at any time from its time of its commencement until Heard tendered its action to September 4th, or any time between Heard's tender defense to October 1st. So they're saying we never owed her any money from March 1st to October 1st because we didn't accept the claim. When New York Marine would advise her that they would defend her under reservation of rights appointed Cameron McAvoy, or at any time thereafter up until the conclusion of the underlying action. So I can only assume they're talking about when Cameron McAvoy left. We accepted with reservation of rights to defend her and appointed Cameron McAvoy. I think once they left, they're trying to say they're out of it. And any time thereafter, up until the conclusion of I think thereafter means thereafter Cameron McAvoy left. So I think that's it. Yes, Ian Runkle did sidebars. Thank you. I saw him doing, I don't know if he did all of them. I know he did some. Elaine instead of Elaine. Yeah. Emily Day Baker. I love her. I have learned so much from her. Here we go. Cheap seat opinions. That's new. Stevie J. Robb. I mean, this has all been changed. I don't always agree with Stevie's take on things. I think, that's just my opinion. But Leslie, Cheap Seats opinions. Okay. She's been reading the sidebars in short video form. She's not trying to overwhelm you all. So New York Marine paid $600,000-ish. Are they asking for that back? No, the way I read it, they are not asking it back. They are saying that they've agreed to, from October 1st, 2019, to provide a defense through when they appointed, up until they appointed Cameron McAvoy, but not anytime thereafter. So when Cameron McAvoy left officially, that's when they're saying we no longer. So I guess the $400,000, if that's what they're $600,000-ish, if they're saying they're paid out, I don't know. It would have been from October 1st, 2019 through November 2020 when Cameron left. Right? So they're saying that from October 1st, 2019 through November 2nd, 2020, that's all they should pay for. That's the way I'm understanding this. Did I get all the questions? Somebody said something about. I don't know how many of you are willing to abdicate your citizenship. Well, there's no extradition to Australia anyway. That's moot now. That's over with. Cheap seat opinions. Thank you. She's on day 15 of the sidebars. Awesome. She's a really nice lady. Yeah, Tuck will get a chapter. I might get a chapter. Yeah. My brother moved to Spain. You can only stay there so many days before becoming a resident and paying taxes. You can't buy anything, even furniture, without certain certificates. That makes sense. Thank you, Cheap Seats. Permanent residency does not exclude a person from tax. To remain a U.S. citizen, Americans have to pay U.S. tax no matter where they are in the world. That's U.S. federal tax. She doesn't have to pay California state tax anymore because she's not a resident there. But she would have to pay, yes, U.S. federal tax no matter where they are in the world. No one wants to be double taxed on. And that's what Johnny was saying. He would be basically working for free, I think I remember him saying. Am I up to date? Okay, we're almost at the end. Fourth cause of action. Declaratory relief as to plaintiff's duty to defend her in the underlying action under the policy conditions. New York Marine is informed and believes, and on such information and belief alleges, that after New York, this is the statement we see. I just want to bring this up. We saw this a lot we see it in so many motions, and we saw it in a lot of the unsealed motions. Motions are allegations with shade. I love Emily D. Baker. I've learned so much. Motions are allegations with shade. Informed and believes, and on such information and belief alleges. This is this kind of stuff Elaine wrote so many times that were unfounded it was a fishing expedition. I'm not saying they're fishing because this is well into this case. There's been a lot of discovery back and forth, motions back and forth, discovery and travelers. So there's a lot more knowledge here. But lots of times this is the wording that's used for basic motion fishing expeditions. And we saw that a lot in the sealed documents that became unsealed, which meant nothing because nothing means anything without the final order. The unsealed documents most of the time didn't even have the opposition motions to say, hey, this is our answer to what they're claiming, which is absolutely false. I'll give you an example later on. New York Marine is informed and believes and alleges that New York Marine accepted Heard's defense under reservations of rights and appointed the Cameron McAvoy firm to defend her. She both individually and or through her agents, including her other counsel from the other firms defending her, acting with her full authority, elected and agreed to not allow Cameron to substantially participate in Heard's ongoing defense and otherwise obstructed the efforts of Cameron McAvoy to substantially participate in her events, thereby refusing to help us with the conduct of suits and attend hearing and trials. I hired this attorney for you, and you did not help them. You did not invite them to hearings. You did not give them the motions. They didn't even know the trial date had been changed. They found that out on the website. As required by the comprehensive personal liability coverage form and failing to cooperate with New York Marine as required by the commercial general liability coverage form. And we know also they were deposing Elaine Bradehoff. They're deposing Robbie Kaplan and her firm. They were deposing a private attorney that Travelers somehow hired for Amber Heard to help her with this Cameron McAvoy issue. So when they say that participate in ongoing, that through her agents, including other counsel, that could be that private, not just Elaine and Robbie Kaplan. It could also be Travelers Insurance Pam Johnson that was getting involved. And it also could be that other private attorney that they hired to help her, including other counsel from other firms, defending her, acting with full authority, agreed to not allow Cameron McAvoy to substantially participate. An actual controversy has risen and now exists between plaintiff on one hand and Heard on the other with regard to the duties and obligations which were owed between plaintiff and Heard under the policy. Plaintiff contends that it had no duty to defend Heard based on her failure to comply with the terms of both the comprehensive personal liability coverage form of the policy by allowing New York Marine to provide a defense at our expense by counsel of our choice, not independent, and to the terms of the commercial general liability coverage form, providing that New York will have the right and duty to defend the insured against any suit seeking those damages by way of her rejecting New York Marine's appointment of Cameron McAvoy firm to defend her in the action and thereby not helping New York Marine with the conduct of suits as required by the conditions section of the comprehensive personal liability Coverage form and failing, this is a long sentence, failing to cooperate with us in the investigation or settlement of the claim or the defense against the suit as required by the commercial general liability conditions of the general liability coverage form. Oh my God. We got a period. Where do we go? One sentence, people. Has a 1 and a 2 in it, but one sentence. So again, they're saying that from October 1st, when we accepted your claim and we appointed Cameron McAvoy, that was our duty to defend. We paid for Cameron McAvoy. We provided him. When they left November 1st, 2nd, because we're now finding out because you interfered, we don't owe you anything. We don't owe you anything. And I think because in Virginia, the rule is that Cameron McAvoy only served Amber Heard, Cameron McAvoy couldn't tell New York Marine what was going on. They definitely found that out in discovery when Travelers was claiming they're not doing any work. They're just riding on our coattails. It was a long sentence. In addition, Heard also has violated both the terms of the comprehensive personal liability coverage form policy by and the terms of the commercial general liability conditions of the commercial general liability coverage form by voluntarily making, this goes to the $4 million, I guess, voluntarily making payments, assuming obligations, or incurring expenses or other than for first aid, assuming obligations. Maybe she's assuming obligations that she's going to countersue New York Marine to get them to pay Travelers to 50%. I don't know. Assuming obligations. I don't think she's paid $4 million out of pocket. She paid out of pocket for March 1st through October 1st. She paid out of pocket. That wasn't $4 million worth. So assuming obligations, maybe Travelers is trying to leverage her this way to get New York Marine to pay back Travelers that 50%. I don't know. Plaintiff is informed and believes, and on such information and belief alleges that Heard disputes plaintiff's contention and asserts that the policy obligated New York Marine to defend her in the underlying action through independent counsel selected by her and to pay her expenses occurred in that action, both before and after September 4th, 2019, which we just talked about, tender of the defense without New York Marine's consent, including expenses and costs incurred or assumed and payments made before her September 4th tender, expenses and costs incurred or assumed and payments made between her September tender and October 1st when they accepted it under reservation rights through Cameron McAvoy firm, and expenses and costs incurred or assumed and payments made at any time thereafter until the conclusion of the underlying action. Expenses and costs incurred or assumed. If she's assumed a liability, it could be that Travelers is saying we're only obligated to pay 50% unless we get 50% from the New York Marine. Sorry. I don't know. I don't know where she's coming up with this $4 million or where New York Marine is. Again, motions or allegations and shade. They're definitely shading her. Due to the actual and present controversy described above, pursuant to 28 U.S.C., plaintiff requests a judicial declaration of the rights, duties, and obligations under the policy, determining that plaintiff never had any obligation to defend Heard in the underlying action. Prayer for relief. I'm about to disappoint you. Enter a judgment declaring that plaintiff New York Marine never had a duty to defend Heard in the underlying action through either independent counsel or otherwise, either at any time following the commencement of the action. Again, so we're going through this window. We did not have a requirement to defend her from March 1st through October 19th under the reservation of rights or any time thereafter. Enter a judgment declaring that the underlying action, which concluded, plaintiff New York Marine had no duty to pay expenses and costs incurred or assumed and payments made by Heard at any time following the commencement of the underlying action on March 1st. You don't get to incur expenses without talking to us. Pay expenses and costs incurred or assumed and payments made by Heard at any time following her tender up until October 1st. Pay expenses and costs incurred or assumed and payments made by Heard at any time following New York Marine's acceptance of the defense on October 1st under reservation of rights or any time thereafter. Meaning if they even took the case on October 1st, any expenses or costs you incurred outside, you had to get our approval. So if you spent money outside of this action, we're not responsible for that. We're only responsible for paying Cameron McAvoy. We're also not required to pay any expenses thereafter, including in connection with any appeal of the judgment. Award New York Marine's cost never happens. Grant such further relief. So they are not trying to claw back any money. Whatever they paid for Cameron McAvoy, they're letting that go. They're not clawing any of it back. Oh, excuse me. I hope I didn't completely gag you on this, but anyway. So there we're at. I mean, it's ongoing now. Of course, Amber Heard has to file an opposition. She's going to say, Judge, I've already thrown in the towel. I've already given up. Why are they still coming after me? And again, it's because the judge who knows, because the cases have combined, he knows that Travelers is still going after this. So let me see where we are. Ian Runkle did sidebars. I saw that. I love Ian. I got to meet him in Fairfax. It was so cool, the people I met. Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of sitting up there pretending to be part of the legal team. Yeah. So, yeah. And Emily D. Baker did some. She did it for her members only. She did it for what she calls her podcast that you can play back. But they're all listed under her main account. He does them slow and explains really well. I don't know if he's going to keep doing them. Yes, it's Leslie. Head's still hurting, but she's there. Dealing with Travelers, they never want to pay, in my opinion. Yeah. I'm not sure. They found some funky thing, which let's see if they're going to let me pull it up. Change of address. So this is something that Travelers, is it Travelers that filed this? No, this is Kayla. So this is her. I covered that. We got the substitution notifying change of all the counsel. Oh, I don't think I have anything else. Let me check my... I had something from Travelers which didn't make sense to me. Let's see if I can find it. So you got questions in general? I got some weird things that just came through my inbox. CACD. Hold on one second. I got something here. I think it's... So let's see if I can get this shared. This is something that Travelers filed, which was real strange. Travelers filed this in the New York Marine v. Amber Heard case. It was filed... doesn't have a, July 6th. And this might be why Travelers, New York Marine is now including that whole section on entertainment. They're talking about potentially applicable coverages. At issue is a commercial general liability policy issued by New York Marine to Under the Black Sky. New York Marine's policy contains 3 coverage parts. We already know that: bodily injury, personal liability. Coverage A is inapplicable. There's no bodily injury. We know that. B and L discussed below are both potentially applicable to Heard's claim for defense and indemnity. So they're coming back and saying, yo, Judge, they their coverage says they may have to do this. Coverage B obligates New York Marine to defend and indemnify suits for damages. Now, this was filed under the New York Marine v. Amber Heard claim, and it's filed by Travelers. Coverage B obligates New York Marine to defend and indemnify suits for damages because of personal and advertising injury. I think they're arguing that that word indemnify is not part of their policy. Defined to include injury arising out of oral, written publication in any manner and material that slanders or libels person or organization in the matter of material slanders or libels personal. Okay. Coverage B does not require an occurrence or accident. To the contrary, coverage B specifically provides coverage for slander, libel, and disparagement of another. In the past, New York Marine has suggested that coverage B did not apply to Amber Heard's claim because the alleged defamation was not connected to Under the Black Skies or Heard's business. That would be the entertainment aspect of it. The underlying complaint alleges that precise opposite. Miss Heard revived her false allegations against Mr. Dip in the op-ed to generate positive publicity for herself and to promote her new movie, Aquaman, which premiered across the United States and in Virginia only 3 days after the op-ed. Coverage L obligates New York Marine to defend and indemnify. Again, this word indemnify, they say in California, that's not true. Suits for damages because of personal injury caused by an occurrence. Personal injury is defined to include any injury other than bodily injury arising out of oral, written publication, material slanders, or libels a person. That conclusion does not apply if the personal injury was arising out of written or public. So they're trying to tie it. This is where the entertainment portion is tying in. That New York Marine is, that Travelers has suddenly come up with this thing that says, yeah, it was because they said that she was publicizing this because of upcoming of Aquaman, and that would be entertainment related. So I hope that helps me at least, and you all understand why New York Marine spent so much time on that paragraph about entertainment. So, and that's it. All right. Where am I with questions? Anybody got questions? I'm sad about Australia, but I really think the cost offset the merit. Not unusual. I think that's really for any perjury claim. It's like, will it change the outcome drastically? Is it worth the expense? Yeah. I think we're talking about Travelers, Pam Johnson. She rented this big, huge house. And we saw that in other motions, and we always wondered. She always arrived in the same car with her and left with her. I don't know if they stayed in the same place together. It would make sense. Right now, Amber Heard's not claiming anything. Amber Heard's counterclaim was dismissed. She threw the white flag and said, I give up. There's no more, nothing for you to sue me from. I'm not making any more claims. I'm not going to file an amended appeal. I'm not going to go after you to indemnify my actions. So there's nothing left for you to get from me. I'm done. And the judge agreed. But let them file an amended claim. And the only thing I can think of is the $4 million must be coming from the Traveler side. Some claims they're making that Amber Heard owes them $4 million if you don't pay it. I don't know. Prediction of the outcome, it's going to settle. I don't know. I mean, I'm waiting to see her opposition. The judge knows, because he's covering both cases, he knows that this is an attempt to chop off Travelers. Rightfully so, because the judge has also ruled on many occasions against Travelers, saying you cannot make claims against Cameron McAvoy, for example. I keep forgetting where I'm looking at myself instead of the camera. You cannot make claims, adverse claims against Cameron McAvoy because they work for Amber Heard. They don't work for you. If Amber Heard doesn't like what they did, Amber Heard has to file against them, not Travelers. So they've said this a lot of time, that Travelers had to stop speaking for Amber Heard. It was up to Amber Heard to speak for Amber Heard, which is why I think New York Marine is now coming back, because the judge knows, because he's got both cases, put together, that Travelers is still claiming that they owe a defense. They owe them 50%. and they want 50% of the judgment, I'm sure. And they may still be trying to claim 50% of the appeal. I don't know. Travelers hasn't filed anything more, so we don't see it all. A lot of this can happen in conferences and hearings that we're not getting transcripts from. A lavender malage. I don't know what that is. Any other questions? Yeah, well, that was the other thing is, and that's why the judge couldn't rule. Amber says, look, I'm not doing anything more. I give up. I'm out of here. I'm not saying I may not appeal the dismissal. I might not. But the judge said, until she does something, I can't rule on something she may or may not do in the future. I can't rule on that. I'm skeptical of age going broke. She has backers and admirers. She's got something, man. She's got something. She was seen in Spain with that director, who I think was also a problem at one point, escorting around. And I mean escorting as not as in dating, as in maybe showing her the sights. I think he took her to a museum. I don't know. Since we all know Amber is a liar, which a 7-person jury unanimously found, I'm willing to bet Amber lied to her mother. She has said a lot. Elon has enough money to have them destroyed. I feel Una is from adoption. I don't know. I guess when you do a surrogacy, it's an adoption anyway. But, sorry, getting dry mouth. I think based on Dr. Curry's assessment with this histrionic personality disorder and other borderline personality disorder, maybe include narcissistic, she needs to be the center of attention. And I've always said from the beginning, when her families fell in love with Johnny, she had to find fault with him. And I think that's where, people think this hoax was created years ago. I think years ago it wasn't a hoax as much it was, I'm the one you have to love the most. I'm the one you have to put on the pedestal, not Johnny. If my family is loving Johnny more than me, then I have to tear Johnny down and say, you know what? Things aren't so great. And this is my personal opinion. And this is supported by what I heard Dr. Curry saying, that she has to be the center of attention and she will exaggerate and lie to maintain that. And I think that's what happened. And I think some of the unsealed therapy notes that we saw was that coincided with some of the testimony we heard that when Amber really thought Johnny was going to leave, she self-reported to the therapist about abuse. And that corresponds in December with Laurel Anderson, when we know now that Laura Wasser had been talking to him about divorce. So she had a very strong feeling that Johnny might be leaving. So she was laying down the defense, and she even said to Laurel Anderson, would it help me if I called the police first? And I think this came up because she knew that he was talking about divorce to a lawyer. I think she found out. So as far as this people saying, oh my God, she was playing this hoax for years, I think she was turning her family against Johnny anytime they liked him too much. And that all played into, that was all, she went back to her text. She went back to her claims and she was like, oh, I can cherry pick this and use this now, is my personal opinion and speculation. She didn't let him go. They finally quit. They quit because I think in one of the motions that a declaration was given saying, look, they're having meetings without us. They're doing legal strategy without us. They're writing motions without us. They're negotiating things without us. If something goes wrong at the end and Amber Heard sues her team for malfeasance, we don't want to get sued because we didn't contribute anything. They blocked us out. So we're quitting. Now, publicly, they just withdrew. There was some kind of hearing and the judge allowed it. So publicly, we never knew why they left, except we assumed there was too many cooks in the kitchen at that point. How many local law firms you had? They had Elaine Bradehoff, they had Ben Rottenberg, different law firms, and they had Cameron. I mean, how many local law firms do you need? Oh, thank you so much. Speed 1.5. You can do that. Oh, you're catching up. That's a long sentence. No, apparently someone was sick. You're more than welcome. I'm trying. I don't see any. Yeah. Thank you for the video. I appreciate it. Thanks for the shout out. Hayes was only interested in the clout chase and free money and using JD as a punch bag, ashtray, and smashing boards. Yeah. I don't know, based on Dr. Curry, if she's capable of love. I just don't know. Do I think she's dangerous? Yeah. That's my personal opinion. I think she needs help. I think she needs to talk to someone to help her manage her understanding of her feelings, maybe. Yeah, she has to be the center. Thank you. She has to be the center of attention, so she lied to her family. I don't think she could stand that they loved him so much. And we saw that in the end. We saw the text, even May 21st, and that week after, we saw the text between her parents and him saying, Johnny, I'm so sorry for your mom. I can be your mom. I love you so much. You can be my son. I love you that much. And here, they're just supposed to have been abuse. And the parents were professing their love for him. And we know what she's like. We know this isn't your fault. Yeah. Moved all her sister in, friends. I think the one thing that's so important that people forget is that demand letter. I'll call it's extortion and blackmail letter, demand letter at the end, where she wants the car she's been driving. Fine. She wants PH3 that she's been living in. I would say that's normal divorce request. She wants PH5 because that's her office and her closet. And I'm like, these are multi-million-dollar condominiums in downtown LA in a historical building, I think. She wants 2 condos. One she's using for a closet. I think that's crazy. But that's not it. She wants PH1 where her friends were living rent-free. That's gold digger. That's gold digger. Or I'm going to go to the public and say you abused me. Okay. Thank you, Freckled Unicom. We have the same Stanley Cup. I don't know. I don't have a Stanley Cup. Do I have something here? Oh, this cup. Yes. Right away, my head went to hockey. Yeah, when a person lies, they can open the door to backfire, but another someone is fed up with the nonsense. She lied and she lied and she lied. Yeah, his depo is gold, and I have seen the whole entire thing. I think it's out there now. I've seen the entire thing. Yeah, I know, but they have so much. No, she took it out earlier. The policy was earlier. I still think it was just pure luck. A lot of people don't know that their homeowners insurance has a defamation section. They just don't know it. See, now the dates are not jumping out at me like I expected. Yeah, I think it was completely I think Robbie Kaplan said, have you checked your insurance policies? And I think that's how it came out. I was under the impression that the ACLU advised her to get insurance to protect against defamation lawsuit. And no, they didn't do that. They advised her back and forth with their lawyers. They wanted Johnny Depp. They wanted it to be known it was about Johnny Depp at all costs. So no, ACL didn't tell her to get insurance. ACL didn't tell her to check her insurance either. And of course, I'm looking at this and no date is jumping out at me. Okay, here it is. July 18, 2018. July 18, 2018 is when she got, here it is here. And she didn't write the op-ed until October. So it went through July 2019. So she filed the claim in September, right? Johnny files a defamation complaint in March of 2019. She did not file until September 2019. So I can only assume one of two things. The occurrence happened while she was covered, or that she renewed the policy. Because if the policy ended July 2019, her coverage is because Johnny filed for her in March of 2019. That's the only thing I can assume. So, and she wrote the op-ed in December of 2018. So per occurrence. No, we've never heard anything. I don't know what. Yeah. Oh my goodness. How many lawyers did she change? She started off with Eric George, and I think his name is Richard Schwartz. Could be Ronald Schwartz from California. They had represented her against London Fields. They hired local counsel McAvoy. They left. Robbie Kaplan came in with a whole slew of lawyers, including Davita Brooks from California. A whole slew. They all left. Oh my goodness. I had this once. Let's see if I have it still in my notes. Bonnie had one leave who had retired. He retired. So. Let's see if I can search it through my notes. Yeah, no, I'm going to have to go to Fairfax. Yeah, I don't know. After that, she had like Kaplan and that whole skew left. Cameron McAvoy left. And then Elaine Bradehoff came in and Ben stayed. So Ben was there the longest, and Ben is the one who handled the appeal, along with the other firm. A new firm came in for the appeal. I think the new firm was appealing against Depp, and I think Ben was defending the counterclaim that Depp was appealing. I'm looking for more questions. Anybody have any more? Yes, a professional insurance policy and a homeowner's policy. It's all normal. She didn't even know that the insurance. I agree with this total. I agree with this. I got my son away from a girl just like her. It's scary. I don't know who Roxy Pallett is. I don't know I mean, it's not something you're cured of. I think it's something that you have behavior learning about. Histrionic personality disorder. The guys who represented TMZ in Virginia they're also a massive group, massive franchise with massive offices. So the people who represented TMZ did not necessarily represent her in the appeal, the same people. I can't remember. And we have a pickup early. Thank you, Gil. Late to the stream. Glad you came. I don't know what else to tell you. I know I won't comment to what's going on in Twitter other than to say in general, Amber Heard is actively trying to rehabilitate her career and has great power behind her. They are going to try and make you forget this trial, the public, to try and make them forget this trial ever happened. They are going to push that she was the innocent, that she was harmed, that she's a victim of abuse, and Johnny Depp is the bad guy. They're going to keep pushing that. And I think that's why it's so important, in my personal opinion, that Ben Chu and Camille Vasquez be supported in the public eye, because they are the ones that are out there with these sound bites. No matter how you think they lean into them, whether it's a backhanded compliment and then they strike, they are in the public constantly, thank God, saying, don't forget the trial. Don't forget the truth. Don't forget this. Do not forget the trial existed. And for that, I am thankful that they're doing this. And I would think if Johnny Depp ever was in a position to say, I'm tired of sound bites, I just wanted to end, please stop commenting, I think they would listen to him. That's my only comment. I'm not going to comment on anything else. The baby's waking up. I'm going to have to go. Thank you all. I hope this has helped. As soon as I get back to the computer, I will upload a link to the document. And I really hate to run, but I've got to go, guys. Any last? Yes, he did a written. He's done a couple interviews where I've seen articles, and they've been great. God, I hate to rush, but I do have a baby I've got to get. And somebody says we should do a book, but I'm good. I'm good. Thank you guys for coming. I was a little rusty, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I am going to have to run. Thank you. And I'll attach a link to the description as soon as I can upload it. Thanks, guys.